Okay. This is going to be a good one. Christy's put a lot of hours into this, and there was stuff on here that I was like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I don't think I'm supposed to know that. So anyway, it's going to be good. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for tonight. Thank you for the wisdom that you've given my wife and putting this on her heart with this ever-changing landscape of what's happening with kids. And so as we dig deeper tonight with the content, help us dig deeper into you, Lord. And we may hear things that addle us a bit, but we also know that you are sovereign and we rest in you. But we're going to be wise as we shepherd these kids, Lord, and as we take back our families for the kingdom of God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, like you said, we're recording, so this sounds really loud to me. But okay, so tonight, I did this earlier. I worked earlier. Casey, what'd you do? You broke it. Thank you. Oh, look. That's not me. Oh, thank you. Technology. Before we move forward with technology, just as a reminder, last time we did a thing where we built our house. Foundation was our relationship with God. We built the frame and the walls. We're being in the Word of God, getting involved. Our roof was prayer, and our security system was our village. Just in case you forgot what that was. So this is the basics of what we did last week. So now we're going to move to the rooms. We're going to go to the first room in our house. But before we do that, I want to do some inquiries. How many hours a day, you don't have to answer out loud, how many hours a day do you personally use an electronic device? Phone, computer, laptop, iPad, just kind of in your head kind of think, well, I think I use it about 2 hours. That's checking a text message, looking at the weather, checking your email. How much time do you think that you spend on your device? Then think through how many hours a day do you think your children use electronic devices? And that could be grandchildren. How many hours a day do you think they're on it? And that includes at your house. So if it's at school or it's at your house, how many hours a day do you think they're there? And then think through where your devices are located within your home during the day and at night. So if you've got kids at home during the day, where are they located during the day? If you don't have them during the day, you know they're at school, but where are they at home once they get home? Where are those devices located? And then where are you when your children are on those devices? They could be sitting in their rooms with them and you're cooking dinner. They could be playing with them in the driveway and you're cleaning the house on a Saturday. Where do you typically allow them to use those devices in your house, in your home? Okay, so pull out your phones. There's one for iPhone and there's one for Android. I want you to go in and check your usage. Gives you the instructions on how to get there.
I'm down 17% from last week.
There you go. If you have an iPhone, you can do it so that it tells you weekly what your weekly report is. So it kind of keeps track of it for you. And then if you get specific in it, you can go through and see whether you were on social media, were you doing business, were you doing whatever it is. It'll divide it up for you. Is there anybody who was surprised by their usage?
Of course, I have my computer too.
Yeah. You actually turn it on. Now just remember, this is only the usage you use on your phone, and most of us do use our phones, but some of us still use computers at work or iPads. So if you keep that turned on, and you can just tell it to tell you weekly, you can kind of monitor yourself. And if you do that on your kids' phones, you can also monitor their usage as well for how much time they're spending on social media apps, how much time are they surfing the web, what are they doing with their time on their phones or their stuff. All right, so pediatric recommendations on daily screen time. Under 2 years old, they say 0, except for video chatting with family. How many times do we go to a grocery store and we see a little baby in a grocery cart? I was about to say buggy. I'm not even from the north, but a grocery cart, and they're looking at a phone or an iPad. 2 to 5 is supposed to be no more than 1 hour per day co-viewing with a parent or a sibling. Co-viewing meaning sitting side by side. We're watching TV together, we're looking at the phone together, we're watching a cartoon together, always together. Ages 5 to 17, they're saying no more than 2 hours per day except homework. And if you are currently in school, you're already on it way past the 2 hours. So we've already broken the pediatric recommendations that are in the United States. According to the CDC 2023 report, this is what kids are currently doing, okay? 8 to 10 years old, they're currently about 6 hours already on devices. Ages 11 to 14, they're currently at 9 hours. 15 to 18, about 7.5. And I think that's probably a little underestimated with most of them having phones in addition to what they're using at school. Okay, so children with more than 7 hours a day of screen time experienced thinning of the brain's cortex, which is the area of the brain related to critical reasoning and thinking. And this was the same CDC report. A survey of parents, where parents gave information on how much screen time they allowed their children to use, versus parents that said, I do it less than an hour, was only 15%. For 1 to 2 hours, meaning they allow their kids on devices for 1 to 2 hours, 34%. For 3 hours or more, 51%. And that's not even including school. That's just, hey, on a Saturday, my kid gets on their device, and that's the amount of time they're spending on that screen, which is a little concerning. Okay, so then we have to ask the questions. What can too much screen time do? And what are the potential long-term effects? Because a lot of times we're like, that's not really a big deal. They're playing an educational game. I make sure they're watching appropriate content. That's all fine and good, but there's more to it than that. So, negative side effects of screen time. Physical strain on the eyes and body. We have more kids wearing glasses now than has ever happened. Sleep deprivation. No kidding, I have students that tell me, I'm like, you're tired, why are you tired? They're in a bad mood. And they'll say, well, I stayed up till 2 o'clock watching something on Netflix, because they have that device in their room and they're under the covers watching something. Increased risk of obesity. That comes from there's no movement, they're just sitting watching. Delayed learning in young children, weakened emotional judgment, thus the behavior teachers that are being hired throughout the United States, impaired socializing skills, loss of cognitive ability, susceptible to chronic health issues. The impaired socializing skills kind of ties into the cognitive abilities and why we're seeing a lot more autistic diagnoses. And we're seeing a lot of more ADHD diagnoses, right? Because we're not getting that cerebral stuff that we're used to getting when we're little. Educational side effects. So how have we lessened? We all know this because we see this in kids, but to see it actually printed is a little bit different. They're twice as likely to suffer from attention disorders. Lots more kids, ADD, ADHD. Kids younger than 30 months learn from live interaction with people and immediate feedback. For instance, your kid, if you know, they always said, don't talk baby talk to your babies, right? Speak to them like you would speak to anybody else. And so we've moved away from the, oh, you're such a cute little baby, to, oh, you're so pretty. Why? Because they pick up the verbal. If we do baby talk, it lengthens the time that they're going to keep talking like that, and they're not going to speak clearly. But what we're seeing is that they're not doing that. We have delayed talking. They're babbling a lot longer than they used to versus making words like they used to. So it hampers their language development. It reduces speech between parents and their infants and toddlers. And we see that more. We see younger kids, toddlers pointing to things versus saying, I want milk. give me milk, they're just pointing to it and they start screaming and crying. So they're not developing that language at the rate that they're supposed to because they're just spending it on time. And this is even with parents saying, but they're watching Sesame Street. They're learning numbers and colors, and that doesn't matter. It's the human interaction that matters. Emotional and social skills. It shrinks the area of the brain that is responsible for planning, executive functioning, empathy, compassion, and impulse control. And we're seeing this everywhere in schools. This is every day. Occupying kids during the day-to-day tasks like grocery shopping or eating out prevents them from learning how to regulate boredom, distress, and other impulses and emotions. So if you were like me and you were growing up and you said, I want the Captain Crunch, and your mom says, well, no, we're not getting that, and you start to throw a fit, you throw a fit once, mom either chose to walk away from you and leave you in the aisle, or just kind of remind you, when we get home, there's going to be an issue, or she just took you to the bathroom in the grocery store and spanked you there. Now it's, here's this, I don't want to be bothered, I just need to shop without this. So we want the quick fix, and the kid's not learning how to deal with being bored, how I want something, you're not giving it to me, and it stresses us as parents out, but our job is to teach them how to manage those emotions, and they're not managing them. And that's why you're seeing a lot more kids now that are all out throwing fits at restaurants, at everywhere, and you just kind of go, whoa, what happened? This is partially why. They're not learning those skills that they need. We have kids that are not being able to organize because they're not having the opportunity to do that and compartmentalize. Lack of face-to-face interaction can also feed online bullying. I don't have to look at you. It's easier for me to do it on my phone. I don't have to confront you. I don't have to deal with the hard conversations because you're not looking at me when we talk about this. Violent video games link to more aggression and less sensitivity to others. I think we all knew about the aggression, but the sensitivity, that was new to me because we're lacking that. We just shoot somebody, it's not a big deal. So we don't have that sympathy that's going on there. So even though positive games can reward cooperation and support, can lower stress, boost mood, and promote helping behaviors, we still want to limit those activities because they're on a screen. We want more one-on-one, face-to-face. Teens' social media and texting habits are changing the way they communicate, date, learn, sleep, and exercise. So they're not even dating the same anymore. It's, I'm going to send you a text or swipe right. Right? We don't have to sit there and that awkward moment where we walk up to somebody or we're kind of hoping that guy is kind of looking at us. There's none of that. We've kind of eliminated all of that. So everything's changing. They're not sleeping as much, and most of them are definitely not exercising. Issues teens deal with on a daily basis are depression, FOMO, if you're not familiar with that, the fear of missing out. I have one of those. Bullying, cyberbullying is the most common. That has not gone down in how much that happens in the schools. It's still there, and only sometimes will the schools get notified by parents that their kid is being bullied because sometimes the parents are not checking the phones and they don't know. Sexual activities such as sexting, if you're not familiar with that, it's basically inappropriate pictures that are passing back and forth. And then, of course, on-screen violence. Vision and sleep. Lack of sleep in teens is linked to more risky behaviors like drinking and driving. We used to hear all the time growing up, don't drink and drive, don't drink and drive. Those people would come and do those presentations on our campuses. Well, they do it now, but it's not till high school. And usually, I don't even know if they do it here, they did it in San Antonio, where they would come to the high school and it'd be like this wreck that happened and the kids would kind of watch it. But most of the time, the kids were on their phone in the parking lot looking at it. They weren't really looking at what was happening. Screen time linked to shorter, lower quality sleep. I sleep with my phone by my bed. I've heard that that's bad because of the blue lights or whatever. My kids do not have anything technology in their room. But I do agree that if it's in there, especially for kids, especially with kids for impulse control, it's there, they're gonna do it. If they hear it ding, I can ignore it during the night. if somebody texts me, but most people know not to bother me past a certain time. But if you're a kid and there's a friend that's up at 2 in the morning and they're sending you a text, what's the first thing you're gonna do? Oh, I gotta wake up. Somebody's texting me. What are you talking about? And so they're up all night long, whether it's watching videos or texting each other back and forth. And again, with the eye strain, blurry vision, and then headaches. Now, some of the headache part, if your kid is on the computer a lot, you can get those blue screen protectors to put on there for your child. But most of it just stems from they're on it way too long. It's just too much for them and for their eyes, how they developed. So for me, in my house, our kids are in bed an hour before actual shut lights off with nothing. They can draw, they can write in their journals, but it is no tech at all an hour before I actually want their lights off. They're getting older, so that's a little later than it used to be, but I need them to decompress out of that state of technology because it does take a while. If you're scrolling through your phone at night and it's 10 o'clock at night, you're like, okay, I gotta shut the lights off, it's 10 o'clock, your brain's still going because you've been doing this. So you kind of have to put it down at 9 o'clock and give yourself that hour for your body and your mind to just sort of decompress off of it. And I always say reading is a good thing before bed, unless you're the person that's the opposite. Reading is good for me. Okay, so some miscellaneous information. A 2023 study shows 92% of babies have used a mobile device before their first birthday. That's a huge number. I didn't even know that. Nearly 35% have their own device at age 2, and 75% have their own device among 4-year-olds. That means mom and dad already bought them an iPad or a little whatever. They have their own device. You see it in restaurants all the time. And kids have their little iPad. It is theirs, and it's got that funny little thing that it sits up on. That's 75%. I was lucky to even get an ice cream when I was that old. Nearly a quarter of kids under 2 have a TV in their rooms, and at age 4, it's around 50%. Y'all, I didn't get a TV till I was a senior in high school, and I only got it because my mom wanted another TV for the living room. So it's by default anyways. When we fostered, we would see this, where they would put TV in the bedroom, and they'd put a tape in and be like, well, this is what puts them to sleep at the time of VCRs. We're just gonna push that in and it sings lullabies. Are you kidding me? No, it doesn't need to be in their rooms. Understanding the content on a screen doesn't generally occur until after the age of 2. I did not know this. So we put kids in front of devices and we think they're learning something. Oh, they're gonna watch Sesame Street, they're gonna watch Bluey. They're not really getting it. They look like they're engaged, but they're not really comprehending what's going on. They are captivated, but they're not learning from it. So that was all news to me. I had no idea. Okay, so now we have to ask ourselves, well, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna solve this problem? Co-watch whenever possible. I can't stress this enough, especially when it comes to devices, even TV. You can't get by a Disney show without sitting right there. And when I say co-watching, I mean side by side. And the more you prompt with questions, hey, did you see what happened right there? What was he doing? Or you go, oh, I missed it. What happened? They're engaging with you. And they're gonna talk through what just happened. So yes, you can give them 30 minutes of a cartoon, but try to make it something that at least they're engaging and not just zoned out from it, because they're already zoning out so much during the day with what they're doing at school. Choose media wisely. That's just a given. Pretty much my children watch reruns of Scarecrow, Mrs. King, The Cosby Show. I mean, we're pulling out old stuff because the stuff that's on TV, I mean, even Hallmark, I'm like, oh, well, there goes my Christmas movies. I know that the Candace Cameron Bure one, the GFAC station, she tries to keep that pretty clean. But it's getting harder and harder to find anything on TV that doesn't have something stuck or snuck up in there that includes movies. So I can always go look through movies and go through, I think it's like Christian movies, and you just say, type in the movie you want, and it'll tell you all the pros and cons about the movie. And even some of them will even tell you like how many words they say that are inappropriate. Yeah, you have to. You cannot take a chance and go, well, it's a G-rated movie. Not anymore. It's not the same. And if you're a grandparent, that's especially important because you want to take your grandkids to see cute movies. But I would always look it up before you do that because they're just trying so hard to sneak little things in there. Limit your own phone use. And I'll admit, this is hard for me because kids do what parents do. So if they see you on it, if you're sitting in the living room and they're watching something, it is hard for me to sit there and pretend like I really, really love some of these anime things that my children watch. But at points, I have to actually put it down. It's kind of like, if I went to my kid's football game, I know nothing about football, ask my children, but I'm going to sit there, my phone's not going to be in my hand, and I'm going to be looking, and I'm going to go, yay! I have no idea what just happened. Like, I don't know, a little boy ran with the ball. Yay, Mark did something. I don't know, but they will see what you do. So if you're doing it a lot, they're going to do it a lot. And then emphasize the big three: sleep, healthy nutrition, and exercise. And as we move forward on these weeks, we are going to get into the sleep and the healthy nutrition and the exercise. Because I think sometimes we make it harder than it needs to be. On the sleep side, our kids stay up way too late. In general, kids are staying up way too late. In this area, what I've noticed between Van and Canton is they're really good about, at least for elementary to middle school, about not giving homework. If your kid's GT, sorry about that. But if your kid's not, typically the teachers try really hard to make it all happen in that class period. And when I asked about that, because we came from San Antonio and as a sixth grader, Mark was getting homework. We came here, I'm like, what do you mean there's no homework? And they said, oh, we just tried to do it during class. And when I asked why, it's because they won't do it at home. They won't do it if we send it home. So we've taken our education backwards and basically said, well, they're not going to do it at home. So we try to keep it in the class period. So if your kid, and I will say this as a parent in the education system, if your kid is getting too much homework and it's causing them to stay up past 10 o'clock and they are under the age of, I would even say 16, have a talk. Have a talk with your administration. Have a talk with that teacher. Because they should not be up that late. So one of two things is happening. Either they're not using their free time at school appropriately, which is a lot of them. They play games on their computer. Well, she gave us free time today. So we just played a game for half an hour instead of doing our work. Because we have to remember, they don't understand that. If I was a kid and somebody said I had free time, I'd probably do it too. They don't know. I'm lucky with my boys that because I'm in the school system, I can see what their computer does. They hate it, but I can monitor what they're doing. So I can click off something that they're on if I know the time, and I'm like, wait, you're supposed to be done. So I can do that. You can't. So you have to just kind of stay in touch with the teacher. Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Do you notice if they're playing games during your class time? Because I want them working. Mark has done a really good job this year about asking the teachers for paperwork. He says, I don't want to open my computer because it distracts me. Can you give me the paper? They can do that. They will tell you they can't. Oh, that's too much. They can. They can give your kid the paper copy, and then when they're done with it, they can open their Chromebook. So at least their work is getting done. He did that on his own. I didn't make him do that. That was amazing. Did you know? Here's some emojis. This was a little flooring to me. So this is sort of the meat of things. Take a look at these. There are some I didn't know. Be really careful when you're sending emojis to people that you think are for something different. But more importantly, when you're monitoring your kids' stuff and you're monitoring those text messages that look like they're just little emojis going back and forth between your kid and another kid. I didn't know all the ones for marijuana, had no idea. The banana, I was like, really? There goes me saying anything about that. Didn't know. I wouldn't have even known half of these things. By the way, the eggplant one, I didn't know what that meant until this year. Asked my husband. I didn't know. I was like, what does that mean? Like, I had no idea. And I'm 47, guys. I had no idea. Everybody knows what a peach is. Here's some teen slang. Just so you know, this is a 14 and 13-year-old. This is,
Oh yeah, I already need to chat one.
Me too.
People,
Carson says it a lot.
I just know what it means though. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, well, this is a second last. No.
the finished my shampoo and conditioner, that one's pretty concerning. If you're ever looking to see what's going on in your kid's mind, that one should be red flagged for sure, because that'll give you a good insight into kind of where they are mental health wise. Just last year, I found out what Netflix and chill meant. Had no idea till last year. And these are just the really bad ones. There's a lot more. Some hashtags. Again, some of the ones to be concerned about are the Deb, the Secret Society, the Sue. I found all of these on smartsocial.com, and it lists all the social media. Remember, this is an ever-changing list. They will stay one step ahead of you when they're trying to get a hold of something, or they're trying to be secretive. Back in the day, we had pagers. Remember that? Or you would, say, what is it, parent over shoulder, POS, so that they would know that you were watching. Well, they've gotten a lot more. So here are some, why am I giving that to you? Here are some things. This is top 3 things that I looked up. There's the Smart Social on there that tells you the information, and you can just keep that bookmarked on your computer and just kind of peek at it occasionally. Most of you have probably heard about bark.com. That's the highest recommended parental control that they have out there. And I kind of went through and just screenshotted some things for you. You do have to pay for it, but it's really a nominal amount. It gives you more specifics on the website of what you can do with your kids' devices and how you are monitoring kids' devices. On the back page, it has the following industry standards for parental controls so that you can see what all it offers. There are probably others out there that do the same thing, but this was the one that was just highly recommended and had the best reviews. And then the Savvy Cyber Kids talks about cyber safety, especially if you have younger kids or grandkids and you want to talk about cyber safety with them. And then it has some oaths they can sign and a Bill of Rights. So if you want to make up your own Bill of Rights for your house, what you expect from them regarding tech usage or whatever, that's completely up to you. But these are just kind of the top 3 that I came across. But in this day and time, the kids are always one step ahead of us. And even if you use controls like Bark, they manage to figure out how to disable them, or they manage to figure out how to get around them. They're always one step ahead. So I am a big proponent of check your kids' stuff. If you're allowing them to have devices, check it. And if you don't know how to check it, walk into the Apple store or walk into some tech store and say, I need to know how to check the history. But I'll be honest with you, they know how to erase the history. They know how to get around that too. There was a TikTok video I saw that was a teacher who said, when you go up to a kid's computer and they kind of switch windows, I think it was like control something. I'll have to find it, but it was control something and it clicks back to where they were. So you can see this is where you really were, even though you're showing me this is where I was. Monitor their devices, check their texts. You can always get a printout of their texts. You can just call the store and say, hey, I need a printout of my texts.
Can we update you?
No, not right now. Thank you, though. I have 2 kids. Do you want them? They're available.
I'll do your laundry.
No, you don't. But in all of these, even the video games, when they're playing games, a lot of the gaming community has changed as well. A lot of the social interaction with kids is through games. That's why a lot of them wear those gaming headsets. It's because they're talking to people, but you think it's just somebody that's down the street or a friend from school. It can be somebody in another country. And the way they're kind of getting to kids, some stuff that I had heard and read was it's simple. Like we go through this whole, don't give them your phone number, don't give them your address, don't say where you live. Well, they're doing all of that, but these people have gotten smarter. Oh, we had a bad storm last night. I was so scared. Did you have a storm last night? Oh, no, it was bright and sunny here. The weather was beautiful. And they're peeling information out of kids. And be like, okay, so it was sunny. Okay. Oh, I went to bed super late last night at 11 o'clock. Oh, I went to bed at 2 in the afternoon. Or the sun was still up when I was going to bed. Or the sun just came up when I went to bed. And they're monitoring all of this, trying to pull out information from kids so they can figure out where they're located. So we cannot get away from the fact that kids are going to have devices at some point. Even if they start driving, that's a big deal. Or we say, oh, they're driving, they need a phone. I didn't have a phone when I drove. Now, I don't necessarily want my child to have to walk to a payphone, but they don't exist anymore. But I also don't really want them at this state to walk anywhere to try to call somebody. But there are still ways to monitor even their driving. It's all there. You just have to do some research, and I'll kind of give you what I know and what I find out about monitoring all that stuff. But you cannot be afraid. We had this conversation this week with Michael, where he was upset about something, and he was like, "You're always in my business." And I literally was like, "I'm always gonna be in your business. I'm gonna be all up in that business. I'm not backing down. I don't like it." He goes for the jugular with his words, but I gotta do it because that's my God-given job. When I said I would accept children, that's what I would go to the depths of the universe to protect them. I cannot do everything for them. I know they're gonna be sneaky. I know they're gonna do things, but at least I can try to put those parameters in place for the best part of success that they can have. As far as the location of social media, they're not allowed to have anything in their rooms. They come home with their Chromebooks. They plug them in the living room. But I will say we had a time where, and I've already talked to Mark about this, he knows I'm going to share this. He had gotten up in the middle of the night and he had somehow in elementary school, gotten through all the firewall protections and found an inappropriate picture. Well, once that has been highlighted in somebody, you can't go back from that. It's there. Now the curiosity is going to set in. And he had snuck in the middle of the night and gotten up on the computer and was looking up things. We now have cameras in our house, and they go off. They're motion sensors, so it'll trigger. Most of the time, it's the cats. But it gets triggered. The computer, when we first moved into this house, it sits in the living room. If they have to be on the computer, we are right there, and we aren't doing anything else. It's not, you can be on your computer and I'm going to go over here. It's I'm watching every single thing you do. We just recently moved the desktop computer into our bedroom just because Mom was lazy and Mom wants to lay in bed because now they're getting older and they have more to do. So, but I see it straight from where I'm sitting. It's just my laziness. But I see what they're doing. I don't take my eyes off of it. And it's not necessarily because I don't trust them. I don't trust the other people. And I know how kids can be. I was a kid once too. You're sneaky and you try to get by with something. You don't think it's going to hurt you, and it can. But, even with cameras in our house, I want them to feel, okay, maybe I'm being nosy and I'm watching them on the camera, but God's watching them all the time. It's pretty much the same thing, except for his scope is a little bit more narrow. I'm not ashamed of those cameras in our house because it helps protect not only my children, but it protects us as parents. If I want to make sure my kid is getting the most sleep, Mark sometimes will have trouble sleeping, and he takes stuff for sleep. But I can go through it, and I can be like, wow, he tossed and turned last night. Okay, let's mark that down. He didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Because if there's several nights of patterns where he's not sleeping, that's going to affect everything else. So we stay on top of that. We seem to think that only babies need cameras. We should be, even if we're monitoring old people at old folks' homes and young people, the people in the middle, put a camera on me. If I fall, I want somebody to see me fall and come and help me. So don't be afraid to do what you have to do to keep your kids safe, because it's like Mark was saying, like I have been saying, the devil is out for our kids, and he's out for our families. And I told Casey when y'all were coming in here tonight, I said, I'm kind of bothered. I'll just be real honest. I'm kind of bothered because it's mainly women in here. And if the design of the family is for the man to be the head of the household spiritually, it's not your responsibility to do all of this by yourself. And yes, some of us have husbands that work and they really can't be here. And sometimes we don't want to bring our kids because they're running around or they're yelling and screaming. They got to be here. Because it's also the husband's responsibility to be your backup if you're imposing that rule or something happened that you're like, well, I'm not the spanker, so-and-so's the spanker. But if they're never there and they didn't see all the stuff that you saw, they don't know. So I'm a huge proponent of we've got to start coming together. That's grandparents, that's moms, dads, aunts, uncles. It's got to be everybody. Because if I put my kids, if I say, okay, you know what, Michael can go spend the night with Cooper, I want to know that they're going to monitor my child. And if he does something that he's not supposed to do, you do what you need to do. And if that means calling me to say, I'm sorry, he broke our house rules, please come and pick him up. And it's 12:30, I'm going to go pick him up. We have to kind of get back to doing that and being okay with that. So I would like to see more men come and be partners with this, because not only do they physically protect your family, but they cover that spiritual, because all of this is spiritual. There's none of this that we can just say, oh, it's just words. It's all spiritual. And as much as we want to say, well, it's not that bad, there are some great things happening. That's true. There are some wonderful things happening out there, but our kids are getting hit left and right. And what I see in the school day, it's rough out there. And those of you that substitute, you see it, and you're only seeing a glimpse of it. And it's rough out there. So we cover our kids in prayer. We send them out into the world. And I think if all of us could homeschool our kids, we would in a heartbeat. But not all of us have that ability to homeschool. And on the other side of that, sometimes homeschooling puts your kids in a bubble. And then when they I remember we ran into some kids on a playground when the boys were little. They had never seen, this was in San Antonio, they had never seen a black person. And they were like 6 years old. They were homeschooled. They just never were around that. And we're in San Antonio. We're in a melting pot. They had never experienced it. So there's a happy medium in there somewhere. I know homeschools have gotten better with the homeschool co-ops where they kind of get involved a little bit more. But I say all that to say, do your research. I'm going to do a majority of the research for you. That's why I did this. And I found kind of the top 3 things. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to do what I can to get you guys the information. The more we spread the information, the more we spread the awareness, the more we become warriors. Because it's time to fight. It's time to put on those gloves and fight. It's not going to be pretty, but we got to do it. Questions? Anything about any of this that you had a question about or you were curious about? Not you. They're great examples of daily stuff. Is it a relevant question?
What's relevant mean? Like related? Cause that's what it's related. There's this new thing, this new app that the administrators put on school Chromebooks where it's like, it's a keyboard and you click it. It's not like the keyboard that goes on the bottom of the screen, but that you click it and it tells you all the control shifts and whatnot
But
on
you
the
can
TV.
also change those so they
Yeah.
don't know. So that's
I'm telling you, talk to the kids. This one, I monitor his, and he locked me out last year. It's a teacher class-wise where you can monitor, you can see what your kids are doing. He managed. She's like, well, it was an accident. I just pressed 2, I don't, locked me out. I did. I went to his classroom, and I'm like, I need to see Michael Newman. And they were like, oh, we saw that, Mama. I was like, uh-huh. I was in mom mode, not like behavior teacher mode. I was mad. So I will keep going with this. This was just the tip of the iceberg as far as technology goes. But go on to that Smart Social website. Any of the Smart Social one and the Savvy Cyber for Kids, sometimes they have some webinars and stuff that you can watch and you can just kind of see what's going on. I can't promise that they're always from a Christian perspective, but at least it kind of tells you what's out there, what's happening, to keep open. Stay on your kids as far as the school system goes. Don't let things get by you. Don't let it. And Chromebooks came up because of COVID. When we went into lockdowns and we all of a sudden needed technology and we didn't roll it back. We just said, oh, they have to have it.
Said in a junior high classroom week before last, and of course the assignment was on their Chromebook, and they had to do the assignment.